People with zero coding experience are building and shipping real applications right now. It's a bit scary as a professional developer. I've seen it in my own community, people who have never written a single line of code publishing applications on the App Store. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it using Claude Code. Now, here's what's interesting. This isn't some simplified beginner-only workflow. This is the exact same process I use every single time I start a new application from scratch. And I've been building mobile applications professionally for years. And this is how I do it. So whether you are brand new or you've been coding for a while, you're gonna get something out of this video. And once we build the application, we're also going to create a landing page for it using today's sponsor, Readdy. It takes minutes, more on that later. Hey, if you're new here, I'm Beto. I spent years building mobile applications at Walmart, then at Expo as a developer success engineer, where I helped thousands of engineers build production applications. Now I run Code with Beto full time, where I help developers master mobile development and ship real applications. We have some success stories, students who landed their first mobile dev role earning 6 figures, and others who are already making money from their applications on the stores. If you want to be part of that, I have a Discord community, a weekly newsletter, and a pro membership. All the links are in the description. Let's get into it. Alright, so if you're watching this video, chances are that you are already familiar with Claude Code because you are trying to build an application with it. You've seen it everywhere, and you know that professional developers use it to build real software. But still, I'm going to show you how to set it up, how to install it on your Mac or Windows machine, and create our first mobile app. This is the landing page of Claude Code. You can just run this simple command in your terminal. So let's copy it, and now let's open the terminal. The terminal that I like to use, it's called Warp. The only thing that you need to do here is just open your terminal. You can use Warp like me. I'm going to leave a link in the description, or you can use just the regular terminal that comes with your Mac or PowerShell on Windows. Just open it, paste the curl command here, hit enter, and this is going to install Claude Code for you. So let me run this, and that's it. After a moment, you should see something like this. I'm going to run Claude help, hit enter, and this is just going to show you all the commands that we can use with Claude, which is a lot. We are not going to be using all these flags at the moment, but this is the way you confirm that you have Claude installed on your computer. You can also run Claude V to check the version. The next thing I recommend doing is just navigate to the folder where you want to create your application. So in my case, I have this folder called apps in my desktop. Grab the folder that you want to use to create your application and just drag it in here. This is going to basically add the path of the folder that you want to access in your terminal. And then you can prefix this with CD, which means change directory to my folder in my desktop called apps. If you hit enter, now we are inside this folder in our terminal, and in here, this is where I want to create my application. I'm going to use React Native to create my application because that means the application is going to work on iOS and Android, and you don't need to install Android Studio or Xcode to test it and run it on your physical device. We're going to be using something called Expo Go, which is an application that you can download right now from the App Store or Play Store, and we're going to use it to develop our application. To create our application, we can run the following command: npx create expo app. Now, before I actually run this command, I forgot to mention that we need to install Node.js in your computer if you haven't already. Node.js, it's basically a program that allows your computer to run JavaScript code. React Native and Expo uses JavaScript, so that means we need to install Node in our computer. So just go to the official webpage, click on Get Node, and I would recommend that you install the LTS, latest stable version. And there are a couple ways to install it. You can run this command, copy it and paste it in your terminal. Or if you prefer, you can just download the installer for macOS, double click it, install it. And once you do that, you can go back to your terminal. Let's open a new tab, and I'm going to type node-v just to make sure that we have it installed in our computer. And as you can see, I have the version 24. Okay, so once you confirm that you have Node, let's go ahead and run this command. Let's click enter. All right, this is going to create a new Expo project, which at the end of the day, it's a React Native project. Now, I'm not letting Claude Code do this itself because it's actually a waste of tokens in my experience. And it's always good to have already a solid foundation where Claude can explore and start building on top of, versus letting Claude initiate the project because it could be using an older version or it could be doing weird things. So just initiating the project and setting some boundaries for the agent, it's a huge, massive improvement. For this video, I want to build a habit tracker. And of course, I built a ton of habit trackers. So I'm going to say 2026 and hit enter. After a moment, you should see something like this saying that the project is ready. And now we can change the directory in our terminal to be habit tracker. And it's actually suggesting it here. You can do that by typing cd and then the name of the folder and then hit enter. And now we are inside the habit tracker project. Now, if you're just getting started with mobile development or just software development in general, I would highly recommend that you use an IDE. Personally, I recommend that you use VS Code or Cursor. I have both installed on my machine and I prefer to use Cursor. If you have installed Cursor, you can actually run the command cursor dot to open the current folder in Cursor. Just by running this command, I can hit enter. So this is how Cursor looks like. And I really like to use Cursor because it allows me to see the files. So for example, I'm going to press Shift Command E, and this is going to actually show me the files on the left. And even if you are not familiar with mobile development, this is helpful. Just becoming familiar with how the project looks like. We have a bunch of folders, a bunch of code, and that's okay. You don't have to change it or move things around just yet. Just become familiar with what's going on here. On the right, if you're using Cursor, you can just start prompting here. But if you prefer to use Claude, you can just open a terminal by pressing Command J, or if you want, you can also just go to the Terminal tab and press New Terminal. And this will open a terminal for you. The next thing to do is install Expo Go on your phone. Here I am on the App Store and I'm just gonna press open. And this is how Expo Go looks like. It's just an app that will allow us to see and view the project that we are working on here. This is very useful for development and it will save you hours because you don't need to install Xcode or VS Code to get started. If you want to go deeper and learn how to set up everything, I would highly recommend that you check out my React Native course. The link is in the description. But for now, let's just use Expo Go. Now, let's just start the project to see if it's working. In the terminal, I'm going to run the command npx expo start. Now, you might be wondering why you're not using Claude Code. This is very awkward, especially if you're not familiar with coding and running commands on your terminal. The reason for that is because all these things are things that you're going to be doing all the time. So just running, stopping the server, it's something that you should actually learn to do. So if I run the command, you can see that we have Expo Go here running. This is the server. This means that we can scan this QR code and just view the application within Expo Go in my phone. So I'm going to open the camera on my phone and scan the QR code. There we go. I'm gonna open in Expo Go. And this is just loading directly from the project that you can see here. This is how it looks. By default, this is the template that we always start with when we are using Expo and React Native. This is how it looks. I mean, this is an application that I can start working on. Okay, if you made it this far, you're doing great. Now, the next thing that I want to do before I start using Claude is to install some agent skills. If you're not familiar with agent skills, I actually made a video explaining step by step what it is, how it works, and how to use them. So I would recommend that you check out. This video is just 14 minutes long, and Expo has skills for agents. At a high level, skills allow the agent to follow best practices, and the best practices are laid down by the Expo team itself. Right now, I'm focusing just on a simple UI, just getting started with the project. So I'm going to use the build native UI skill, which basically uses native UI patterns, Expo router, Apple symbols, animations, visual effects. You don't need to worry about the implementation. Just know that if you install this skill, Claude is going to work better. It's going to create better UIs. The way we install these skills is by running this command. So let's copy that. Let's go back to our project. And now I'm going to create a new terminal window because the server needs to be running all the time. This is good because when the agent makes changes in the project, we can also see them live in our phone. So let me go ahead and create a new terminal by pressing this plus icon, and let's paste the command here. Now, this command is actually using Bun. But remember, we are using npx. If you're using Bun, just run it with the on X command, but right now it's npx skills add expo skills. So let's just run this command. Okay, and now this is going to tell me, okay, which skill do you want to use? We want to use build native UI, so let's press space to select that skill and then hit enter. Then it's going to ask me which agent do you want to use. In this case, we're using Claude Code, but notice that you can also select multiple. So right now Claude Code is already selected, so let's just press enter. You can install skills to be used globally on your computer in multiple projects. But right now, since I just want to use this skill for this specific project, I'm just going to select project. But if you prefer, you can select global like this. So let's just say project. And then let's select Symlink recommended, hit enter and proceed. Another thing to notice, because we're using cursor and this would also happen on VS Code, is that now things that have changed in the project are highlighted. So right now we have new folders like .agents and .claude. And it's basically the same thing. Claude is going to use this folder and agents is going to be used by cursor. The reason why it's duplicated is because cursor detected that we run this command and they also want to use the skills not only with Claude, but maybe you want to use a different agent, so that's why it's duplicated, but that's fine, don't worry too much about it. But this is the skill. You can click on it, you can see that these folders are new, that's why they are different color, and you can press on the skill.markdown and learn more about the guidelines and all the things here. All right, so now we're ready to start Claude within the project. So let's just say Claude, hit enter, and let's authenticate. If this is the first time, you can say /login, hit enter, and I'm going to log in with my Claude account. You can also use the Anthropic console account. This is going to charge you based on the API usage, or you can even use a third-party platform. I'm just gonna use Claude Code with subscription. This is going to open my browser. I need to authorize that. And once that's done, you can see that we have successfully logged in. All right, so now let's press escape. And I'm going to ask Claude, list my skills in this project. Hit enter. And it's detecting the skill. It means that we installed it correctly. Now, this is very important. I've seen many beginners trying to one-shot an application and literally breaking everything down. And you know, one-shotting works for simple applications and sometimes for complex ones, but I would recommend that you don't do that and you don't prompt it directly. Instead, always use plan mode. So with Claude Code, you can do /plan. This is going to enable plan mode. So let's hit enter. And now we are in plan mode, as you can see here. You can also do Shift Tab to switch between modes, like accept edits on, or plan mode, or just regular agent mode. So let's turn on plan mode and let's make a plan for building this application. This is good because the agent is going to ask me things that I might missed explaining the first time in my prompt, and then we can align before the agent starts building. This is actually a good point to pass like the kind of UI that we want to achieve for this application. So what I'm gonna do is just take a screenshot just of the dashboard. I think this is more than enough for this simple example. Now this is in my clipboard. I can go back to the terminal and press Command V to paste the image. And you can see that the image is now here. And now I'm going to start asking Claude to build the application, but I don't want to type everything. Instead, I'm going to use Aqua Voice, which is a Mac application for speech to text. If you're interested about it, I'm going to leave a link in the description and you can get actually a free month using my link in case you want to try it out. The way you activate it is just by pressing FN twice. And now you start speaking. Once you're done, you press FN again. And boom, all that I said, it's here. So let's use that for the plan. I want to build a minimalistic habit tracker application with light mode enabled, just light, don't worry about dark mode. And I want to use just white and black colors for storing the habits. I want everything to be local, keep it simple for now, no database, nothing complex. Maybe we can use an SQLite database for saving the data locally. Focus on a beautiful UI. Something important for this application is showing a heat map of the consistency of the user. following the habits. Okay, so this is my rough idea. Of course, this is pretty short. This is a simple application. I would recommend that you explain as much as possible here, but since we're attaching an image and this is just a very simple app, I'm just gonna hit enter. But it's also always good that you ask the agent to ask you questions. So by the way, I'm gonna say, please ask me questions and any clarification that you need before proceeding. Make sure that the code is gonna be composable. We're able to reutilize components and follow those best practices. It's always good to mention that, I think, because that way the agent's going to know that we care about good code, and it's not going to make everything in one single file, which is actually very hard to maintain, to understand for us and for the agent, and it's going to spend more tokens whenever we reference a file that has thousands of lines of code that is going to consume the context of the agent. So let's hit enter. This is why it's very important to use plan mode. Now the agent is exploring the code base that we created for the agent so that it doesn't have to do it. We don't waste tokens. It's just a matter of running one command to get started. And now it's becoming familiar with how we are structuring the components, the code on the code base, and it's going to follow the same pattern. Another very important thing of planning is that now the agent is going to ask me how I want my application. So it's asking what screens or navigation structure do you want? I want tabs, so this is recommended by the way, but you can move around. Like if you only want one single screen, you can select single screen. But yeah, let's use tabs. This is actually the recommended one. Hit enter. What habit frequency do you want to support? Yeah, daily. Just keep it simple. And by the way, you can actually specify something else by going to the number 4, and then you can start speaking here if you're using Aqua, and you can clarify something. But in this case, let's just show the last 3 months. This is recommended for now. Do you want a mood tracking feature? It's seeing in the reference screenshot. Okay, so it saw the screenshot. In this case, I'm going to skip it just to keep it simple. Let's hit submit. Now let it cook. Okay, and by the way, this is a pretty common mistake, or this is actually pretty annoying, especially if you are, letting the agent do everything. It's gonna ask you for permission to create files and stuff, so you can say yes and don't ask me again. Or you can also press Shift Tab and turn on Accept Edits On. That way we don't have to approve this every time. After a couple minutes, we have the plan ready and we can check it out here. I would highly recommend that you read this in detail, especially if you are building something serious. All right, so let's take a quick look at the plan. Building a minimalistic local first heavy tracker on top of an existing Expo project. Light mode only, this is important to me. It's going to save the data on an SQLite database. It's a database that lives locally on the device, in case you're not familiar. And this is good because it's fast. It's showing me the colors that it's going to use. This is perfect. Just the grayscale that I wanted. And it took it from the design, which is good. As a professional developer that, knows what this is about, like all these hooks and all these abstractions, it's actually following best practices. I'm super happy with this plan. In case you're not familiar with all this and if you want to learn more, I would highly recommend to check out my course. You actually don't have to follow everything step by step nowadays, as long as you are aware of what's going on and how routing works, how deep linking works, how components, hooks, all the things that you can do within a React Native project. As long as you are familiar with it, this is going to give you a huge edge when developing applications with AI agents like Claude Code. Link in the description. But honestly, everything looks okay. Now that we know that it's going to produce a good result, I recommend that you clear the context, because right now it's used 21% of the context window. I've seen some developers saying that after you use more than 50% of the context, the agent gets dumb. So try to keep the context as low as possible or clean as possible. So let's clear it and let's start from 0. All right, now we wait. Okay, so after 10 minutes, it says that it's done. Fully heavy tracker, but as you can see, I don't see anything. So on my phone, what I'm going to do is shake it, and this is going to open the developer tools on Expo Go, and I can press reload. And boom, I have the application running. All right, so let's take a look at the application. It looks pretty nice, to be honest. And we have 3 tabs. Each one of them has haptic feedback. You cannot feel it, but it's good. And this is the result of using skills. It, helps the agent to just create good UI. So let's press the plus button and it's open a bottom sheet so I can start tracking my new habits, and just select an emoji. And let's see, I'm going to add this habit. There we go. So it looks pretty nice. I'm super happy with the UI overall. This is perfect. This is perfect. Let's say, hey, let's add a couple of them. We can manage and edit habits. This is amazing. We can toggle them and this looks great. Let's refresh. Let's go here. Okay, so it seems like it's not updating the stat screen as we complete them. So we needed to refresh by shaking the device, opening the DevTools and refreshing. But overall, I really like this UI. Quick coffee break. If you're serious about React Native, consider becoming a pro member at codewithbeto.dev. You get my full React Native course, TypeScript, Git, plus real production projects with source code you can ship. One price, lifetime access, everything I build goes in there. Link in the description. All right, let's get back to the video. So there are a couple of rough edges and the first step is never perfect. But at this point, I'm happy with what we have so far. And I want to save this to be a good point in time to always come back at any time. Now, I also want to show you, because we're using cursor, we can see all the things that have changed on the Explorer as highlights. So if we click here, you can see that the agent created a bunch of components. It created hooks, it created the database and types. If you're not familiar with this, that's okay. But just know that the current state of the application, it's good. And we want to save it. We don't want to lose it, because if I ask the agent to make a change, it could break something else. And then we are in trouble because we didn't save it. That's why we use Git. And software engineers have this huge advantage that already know Git and they know how to save progress. So I actually have a course in my platform about Git and GitHub, but just to show you how you can save this is just by going to the Git tab here. This is everything that changed right now. It's a bunch of changes. So I don't really want to know what changed, just want to save everything by pressing this stage all changes button. And then let's create a commit. This is just going to describe what we did. You can type this manually or let AI do it for you. Since this is a very long change, this is actually taking a while to describe the changes. But once you have that, you can press commit and now it's saved. We haven't published this to GitHub, but it's committed locally in my computer. That means that if I go back to the Explorer tab here, I don't see any highlights anymore because we have changed it. And this is a very important step that many beginners that are not familiar with coding or Git get lost with, and they lose their progress. So this means that if I now go and change something on the index screen, here we have the today text. Let's change it to be hello and press Command S to save. You can see live reloading here on the right. Now it says hello. And on the left, now it's yellow because we changed something. And if you want to save this right now, you can again do the same. Commit, give it a name, a message to the commit, and then commit it. And boom, that's saved. And then you can always ask the agent to revert the changes. So let's say that the agent broke something like hello, testing, and we didn't want these changes. You can always go to the Git tab and discard the changes by pressing this icon and discard the file. Now be careful because you lose whatever we had before, but we can always go back to the previous state that we wanted. Okay, this is very important and I hope you get it. That once the agent has done a bunch of work like it did right now, it took literally 8 minutes and it created a bunch of files. The context window or the memory of the agent, it's pretty much full. And I recommend that you don't keep messing around with this current session of the agent. So you can check the context by doing /context, hit enter, and this will tell you how much context we have used. Right now, 31%, but we're using Claude Sonnet 4.6, which is one of the best models out there. 31%, I would say you can maybe ask a follow-up question or a follow-up fix here, but it's best to just clear this and start clean if you want to do something else in the code base. So you can use the command /clear, hit enter. This will clear everything. So let's say that you want to add a new feature. Let's go ahead and prompt the agent here. I'm not going to do plan mode this time, just prompt directly. Can you add an option on the settings screen to allow the user to select the primary color to use for the habits. Right now we are using black for everything, but let's let the user to choose. For now, let's hard code 5 colors that they can select. So you saw previously that we can paste images in Claude Code, but you can also reference files. So let's say that you know in which file you want Claude Code to change this. Right now this is not relevant for this change, but you can always do at and then the name of the file, like for example index, right? The tabs, the index file, this is going to be like the home screen. You can point the agent to a specific file, and let's hit enter. And this is basically how you iterate. Building with AI is a conversation. Okay, and the change is done, as you can see on the top left. Now I selected purple, and if I go to the home screen, I can see the color, which is absolutely amazing. This, and I can always toggle it. Let's change it. Okay, so this is perfect. This is what I wanted. All right, the app is good to ship at this point, and I actually have a video on how to deploy your application. I'm gonna leave the link to that video in the description. But building the application is only half of the job. If you want people to find it, you need a landing page. And that's where Readdy comes in, the sponsor of today's video. Readdy is an AI tool built specifically for creating websites, landing pages, and front-end interfaces that are beautiful. I've been playing around with it, and honestly, I'm pretty surprised with the results. The best part is that it just creates a beautiful website with the first prompt. You can just come here and say something like, build a website for my habit tracker application. And just by me typing that, it's now suggesting a better prompt. So let's press tab again with intuitive navigation and responsive design for seamless mobile and desktop experiences. So just like that, let's submit. But if you want, you can also upload an image. But I want to show you that even if you don't provide an image, this is going to generate an amazing result. So let's submit this. Now we need to tell it which structure we want for our landing page. All right, and let's press next. This is something that I really like about Readdy, is that it generates an icon for your application out of the box. We can always regenerate at any time or upload a custom logo if you already have one. Let's use that one. I'm going to press next. All right, and now it's cooking. Readdy handles the front end, so you can actually focus on your application and shipping real features for your users. This definitely allows you to move way faster. And the website is ready, as you can see here. I mean, look at this, guys. First prompt, and it's also responsive. Looks amazing on mobile as well. Let's check it out in full screen. I mean, look at this, guys. You can see the daily progress. The UI is just absolutely crazy. If you want, you can iterate, but also you can just publish directly. I'm just gonna deploy it by pressing publish. And just like that, I can copy, paste the link, and navigate to my website. It literally took minutes. Okay, this looks way better. I just added the following prompt, add animations to the hero and make it pop. Maybe add a phone with a frame, and it literally did everything. I can now even toggle items here. Let's see it in full screen. Boom. This looks absolutely amazing. If you need to change something, just come here, select it, modify it, and you're good to go. And by the way, I also created a landing page for my AI tattoo application. I provided the link to my application to Readdy, and Readdy did everything. Highly recommend it. It's gonna save you a ton of time. Link in the description, and thanks to Readdy for sponsoring this video. If you want to keep going with Claude Code, I made a video explaining how to use agent skills, and I'm also going to link a video explaining how to deploy your application once you're ready. All the links are in the description. Check them out, and I'll see you there.